A very big welcome to the very first episode of the AirPod with myself, Tsepi. And today I'm having a very, very intimate conversation with a friend of mine who went through a very, very unfortunate incident. And I thought, why not have it here on this particular platform so that we can open up this conversation and speak about it. I have Andy, who's a dancer and a choreographer, originally from Johannesburg, but now lives in France. Hey, girl.
Hey, bonjour.
I mean, listen to you. Okay, so how much French can you speak now?
I'd say medium.
Medium being what? So
Yeah.
you can get through a sentence.
I can get through a sentence and I can hear very well. I can understand what people are saying to me.
Because also now you're a man. You're new man.
He's so
He's
French.
so French.
So yeah, I'm picking up much faster.
Before we even go there and go into why I brought you on this particular platform, let's talk about COVID-19 and how hectic it is right now around the world. We in South Africa are currently on level 3 advanced, which just generally means we're on level 5, but we're just renaming it level 3. How are the rules and regulations in that side of the world?
Okay. Firstly, the COVID-19 started in France, I'd say end of January, beginning of February. So the lockdown for us was pretty fast. By the end of February, we were on the serious lockdown. Like nothing was happening. And right now, it's July, mid-July. Right now, there's no more lockdown. Everything's gone back to normal. They're just asking people to social distance and obviously sanitize and not go out unless if they absolutely need to. But it still feels weird. Like not everybody's out, but at the same time, it feels like everybody's out. So, yeah.
And the thing about this is that you actually had your pregnancy during the lockdown, right? Or during the times when it was
Yes.
quite rife. And the anxiety, I
Yes.
remember that you also had a blog that you used to do, or a vlog, let's put it that way,
Yes.
that you used to do on your YouTube channel, which by the way, I absolutely loved. No, on your Instagram, hey.
Yes, Instagram
That
TV.
I absolutely loved. And I know in one of the videos you had shared how nervous you are and the anxiety that's going in your mind right now with regards to the regulations and everything that's going around and being pregnant in a foreign country, being alone in terms of having to give birth. How was that for you? Trying to keep those positive minds and that positive spirit in a time when honestly it didn't allow us to.
No, it didn't. It was really difficult. It was very difficult because when you're pregnant, you want to be safe for yourself and your unborn baby. So I was indoors most of the time, and that kind of takes a toll on you because you know that you need to be active. You know that you need to take swimming classes. You know that you need to be active for a healthy pregnancy throughout. And me, myself, I'm a dancer. So that was challenging because I had to make the decision that I'm just going to stay at home and make sure that I basically stay in all the time. And that was a bit stressful, mainly because your back is way more painful when you're not so active. And as well as the doctors, they couldn't see me as much as they should have been able to because they were dealing with the COVID-19 patients and they just needed to check me like once every 2 months, which was very, very stressful.
Before we go into that one, because I feel like there's a lot, it's quite heavy-handed when we talk about, let's talk about pregnancy, finding out that you're pregnant. What was going through your mind and your partner's mind? Is this something that you had planned? Is this something that you had wanted? Take me through the very first time you found out that you were pregnant.
Okay. We just came back from summer vacation in the south, and
That's not where you conceived, girl?
that's pretty much where we conceived.
Okay.
It was a wonderful time there, and it was just perfect. Everything was perfect. So when we came back to Paris, I started feeling really grumpy, and I could feel like there's a heartbeat in my head. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like the throbbing from my head felt like it's connected to my heart, and I could feel my heart from my head.
Okay.
That's how I was explaining it to my boyfriend at the time, and he was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I'm also like, okay.
Yeah,
But I'm with you.
I don't even know, but yeah, it was a lot. And then I needed to pee a lot, which is quite normal for me, but it was really excessive. And then out of nowhere, I was just like, babe, what if I'm pregnant? And he was like, no, you're not. And by then my period wasn't late then. So it was like 9 days later and
Mm.
it wasn't arriving. So I was like, babe, what if I'm actually really pregnant? Like for real, jokes aside. And he was like so speechless.
Yeah,
He was
awkward
just looking
moment.
at me like, what are you saying? It's been 9 days. I'm like, yeah. So I went to go buy a test because he was just like, I'm gonna wait here for you. You can go quickly and then I'll wait.
Yeah.
So I went and I bought one. I don't know why I bought one. I bought one and I came back and when I took it, he literally couldn't believe it. He was like, no, maybe something's wrong with it. We have
Take
to go buy
another one.
another
Let's
one.
go for the test.
Yes, so we went to go get the second one, and that one was positive too. And he just started crying, and I was crying, and oh, it was a beautiful realization that it's not just us anymore.
Was this something I suppose it came by surprise, hey, but it's something that you were
Yeah.
emotionally ready for.
Um. The thing is, before we fell pregnant, I did say that I would love to have a baby specifically with him because he's such a great person, and
Oh,
he
so
said
he's
that he felt the
fun,
same way.
okay?
And he's also fine.
Yeah.
So like I was just like, yeah, like this is the guy. I'm so happy. I've never been this happy in my life.
Mm.
So this is definitely the guy I want to have babies with. And he agreed with me as well. He was like, I've never felt like this before, and if it does happen, I'll be genuinely excited and happy.
Mm.
So it's not like we weren't trying, and it's not like we were just going with the flow and seeing if anything happens or not.
Mm. Now,
Yeah.
here's what bothers me, and having watched a lot of videos of women who have gone through miscarriages and are dealing and are currently learning to deal with them, is that we kind of don't know the numbers around the world and how, I'm not going to say popular, but how much women actually, and how many women in general go
Yes.
through miscarriages or lose their pregnancies. Up to
Yes.
25% of the women who fall pregnant are going to lose their children, and that is a staggering amount.
It's a big amount.
It's a big amount also in the sense that we never want anyone to lose a child. Right. I feel like that on
No,
its own is something that nobody wants to go through, and you don't want to wish that upon anybody. And now,
no, not
having had that experience yourself, how did that go for you? And I ask that because obviously you had carried full term, almost full term, hey?
yeah, yeah. I
And
was going
everything
on
was
my
fine,
ninth month.
everything was healthy.
Yeah, everything was fine. Everything was healthy. My baby's heartbeat was great. I didn't show any signs of stress or, complications.
Mm.
The doctor said that because I'm a dancer, I just have to at least try take some walks or do some exercises indoors because if I stop, it's gonna complicate things in the end. And so I did all of that. And to answer your question about how I feel about this information not being out, is that when I did lose my baby, which is about 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago,
Mm.
I felt like I was the only one.
Mm.
I felt as though I was the only person in so many years probably that actually lost a baby at this time full term, or even if it was earlier. I just felt like it wasn't something that's quite common, and I had to go through a process of guilt. I had to go through a process of research. I had to go through a process of women opening up to me to tell me that it happened to them too, for me to realize that okay, it's not just me. And
Mm.
not that it makes me feel better that people have felt pain, but it made me realize that maybe I didn't do anything wrong because
Yeah.
you blame yourself
Yeah.
for what's happened. Yeah.
What happened now transpiring to the loss and finding out that you had lost your baby? Is this something that might have happened in the hospital, or do you sort of feel it in the days before? Because I've spoken to quite a few women who say they felt it a couple of weeks before, a couple of days before, but
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
we are as women, we're just like, it's part of my body, or maybe this is what my body's doing to prepare for pregnancy.
Exactly. What had happened was I was basically in my ninth month, the first week of my ninth month. So I was getting ready to go to the hospital. I had a hospital bag. I had everything ready, just waiting for the right time to feel something. And I think about a day before, I had a really bad nightmare about my baby, and I was scared. I woke up scared, like, oh my gosh, what does this dream mean? Like, that was something out of this world. So I just prayed on it. I told my boyfriend, we prayed on it, and we just moved on. That night, the baby moved. Everything was perfect. The next day, I was on the phone with my mother. We're laughing. I'm making breakfast, and usually after I eat breakfast, my baby moves. So it was just a normal routine that after I eat breakfast, she's happy. She's gonna start dancing. So I get off the phone, I've eaten my breakfast, and I realize that I haven't felt anything at all. So I start to tell my boyfriend that I think we have to go to the hospital. It's not the first time we went to the hospital because the baby didn't move. It was maybe the third time that we go. And every time we went, the 2 times we went before, they said that she was just sleeping, or now we're getting into the later stage of pregnancy, so there's not much space.
To
So,
move around. Okay.
maybe when I'm sleeping, she's moving. We just miss each other. And as soon as I told him, I could feel the mood change. It felt like time stood still at that moment. It was just like, we need to go to the hospital because it just didn't make sense. But I still kept hope about what happened, that everything is going to be okay. And unfortunately, because of the COVID-19, he was not allowed to come upstairs with me. So I had to go by myself, even after pleading that I don't speak such good French, especially in stressful situations. They said no, they can't let him in. So even then, it made my feelings even worse. I was so anxious. And that's when they tried to find a heartbeat on my stomach, and there wasn't one.
How was that at that moment? Just trying to hear and just beg God for this heartbeat, just to hear it. How was it not hearing it? Did you feel like maybe you're overthinking it, or maybe I can imagine a lot went through your mind.
Yeah, a lot went through my mind. First, I was still trying to stay calm. I was like, that she's probably sleeping. It's not that deep. And I was just waiting for her to find the heartbeat. And because I'm used to seeing the scans, I already know the parts that, like, you can see the heart when it's moving, when you watch the screen. And I couldn't see anything. And I could hear a little bit of a heartbeat, but it was mine. So then she called for another nurse to come check. That nurse came, and by then I started crying. By then I was already like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So she couldn't find a heartbeat as well. And then they called a doctor, and she came and she tried to find the heartbeat as well. And at that moment, that's when it was just a room full of midwives and doctors, and they were just staring at me and trying to figure out how to tell me that there is no heartbeat.
And at that moment, I assume they're speaking in their native language, and you unfortunately cannot understand it.
Yeah, amongst themselves, they're speaking in French, and I'm trying to pick up what they could be saying. But at the same time, my mind is already elsewhere. It's like, what am I going to do if this is really true? Like, what am I going to do if there is no heartbeat? And yeah, it was really, really something, especially because I was by myself. My boyfriend was still downstairs.
Once that happened and they found that there was no heartbeat and they broke it to you, what was the process then? What did they do then?
The process. They told me that there was no heartbeat. They let my boyfriend come up so that we can be together. And almost immediately, they just said to me, you can opt to have the baby now, like we induce you now, or you go back home and you come back tomorrow and we do it tomorrow. And I was just like, what are you saying? Like, I was still trying to process the fact that there's nothing that they can do. I was still asking, so there's nothing you can do? Like, you can't cut me open and take out the baby and try to do CPR? Like, I was still in that process of thinking. And they were just saying, do you want to give birth today or tomorrow? And yeah, that was And then on top of that, they had to take blood tests
Yeah.
to try to figure out if there's something that made my baby sick and me sick. So they poking me with these things, and I didn't have enough time to process. If I'm honest with myself, I did not have enough time to process what had happened.
Yeah. So did you opt to then have it done in the hospital at that time?
No, I opted to go home.
Okay. So in a lot of the videos that I had watched, and also in my thinking as a woman, it must be so painful to go to the hospital pregnant and leave without your baby. How was that feeling? I'm so sorry. I can imagine it's still so hard for you to deal with. It's still something
It's so painful.
that you cannot, I myself cannot wrap my head around it because I've never fallen pregnant. And for you, who's literally birthed a life.
It's so painful. It's so painful because at the same time, the maternity ward is the same ward that you're gonna give birth to your sleeping baby. So the whole night you can hear these babies crying, and you already know that you're not gonna go home with a live baby, a crying baby, a baby that opens its eyes. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Leaving the hospital without my baby was something I wish nobody would have to go through ever. If I could be the last person that this happens to, nobody needs to go through that.
Yeah. How did the bearing process go? Did they give you your baby to hold and to, I can imagine closure, it takes a lot when it comes to closure, but I mean holding your baby at that time, were you still a bit hopeful that your baby might wake up? That maybe if there's a skin to skin connection between you and baby, that maybe there'll be some sort of miracle that he or she wakes up?
Yes. I thought that when I opted to go home, that by some miracle when I come back the next day to give birth, that there would be a heartbeat. Or if not by then, by when I start giving birth, out of nowhere there'd be a heartbeat. And it was very unreasonable for me to think of that, but I was desperate.
Oh, but it's so understandable.
Yeah, I was really desperate for that. And
In that night that you went home knowing this information, how was it? Were you praying? Did you call your mom? Like what were all these emotions that were going through your head at the time when you went to bed knowing that your child could possibly 100% doesn't have a heartbeat?
I was like a zombie. I was very numb, and when we went home, I still was in denial. So I would go through in between emotions of, no, it's gonna be fine, I'll just keep praying, and my family's praying and everybody's praying, to deep sorrow and sobbing that I need to face the fact that 3 doctors couldn't find a heartbeat. There is no heartbeat. And for my partner as well, it was very difficult. We went through it together, which is something I really appreciate. We cried together, we helped each other to feel strong. But it was a lot.
Days later, remember now you were 9 months pregnant, and I think that is you're fully fledged. You're ready. Actually, you're ready for baby.
Yes.
You've bought clothes. You've bought a cot. You're ready for baby to come home.
Yes.
Those days later, after you had given birth, obviously now, and you had buried baby, how was the dealing with seeing these clothes, seeing babies even on TV? I can imagine that on its own was just such a painful experience for you.
It's almost like when I came back from the hospital, we had obviously the cot near the room. We had the clothes. out in her little wardrobe. And we had to ask my boyfriend's mom to actually go home before we come back to pack everything away that would possibly trigger me and my boyfriend. And she tried the best that she could. She put everything away. She removed all the stuff except for the first toy that we bought her. It's like a fluffy flamingo. And when we came home and I saw that, just that one thing out of all the things we've bought her was just, it was feeling like everything else was still in the room. It was just a lot of emotions of, I don't have my baby. I've lost my baby. As a piece of myself and my partner is gone. And they did allow me to hold the baby in the hospital. They said that for a day they keep the baby near the hospital, and if ever we need to hold her or see her, they can bring the baby to us. And as soon as I gave birth, maybe 1 hour later, that's when my partner went to go see our daughter.
Do you think that made it worse or made it better? And I ask this not to 100% be insensitive, but
Yes.
I ask, did it help in people heal differently, like you had mentioned? Did it help in the
Yes.
healing for your boyfriend also, and also for you?
For me, it did. For my partner, it did as well. Because this is someone that I spent days with, weeks and months with, who had a funny personality, even though she was inside. She was a nighttime person, just like my boyfriend. I wanted to see the person I was sharing my body with. I wanted to see her and pay respect to her and give her love, even though she is not there. Like, the flesh is there, and I feel like this is the closest I can show her, even for myself, to feel like this is my baby. It's my baby. And if I just act like it didn't happen and I say, no, I don't want to see my baby, it's painful for my baby as well. I feel spiritually it would be painful for me to just disregard my baby. I just wanted her here, and I saw her. She was beautiful. She had long legs. She had beautiful fingers. She had a beautiful face. She was everything that me and my boyfriend had wished for.
Yeah.
Everything and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's the healing process? How are you healing now? It's a learning process, right? I mean, this is something you
Yeah.
learn and unlearn every single day. Sometimes it's new, sometimes you feel like you can get through it.
It's a process. It's a difficult process. It's hard because I've always been a person that dreams a lot. So I always dream about my baby. I always dream if the situation was turned out differently. I always dream about future children. I always dream about things like this. So sometimes I just wake up and I cry because I know that's what I want so bad. I want a family of my own. I want a child that I can raise on earth. And these things is difficult. If you see it on the TV, it's just an advert. But now, because you're grieving, your mind pays more attention to these things. Now every advert, there's a child, there's a baby, there's things for babies, there's a child laughing, there's social media. Everybody's got their little families. I was following pregnant women who were vlogging or things like that, so I had to remove myself. But even that wasn't enough, because my mind and my dreams would remind me constantly of what I long for and how sad I am.
Yeah. So for me, having followed your Instagram page, I obviously would like the vlogs, and I definitely like the styles that you used to sort of show how you can be stylish and pregnant. And I
Yeah.
realized when you did post up, which by the way absolutely broke me. I tweeted about it. I was like, someone on my Instagram lost their child, and it almost feels so personal, and I think it feels so personal because I know you.
Yeah.
And I suppose also because I'm a woman, I share the exact same pain.
Yes.
How the dealing You see, I don't know how your thought process was in obviously posting about it and letting us know that you know you have lost your baby and you don't want to talk about it. And I later
Mm-hmm.
obviously went on your Instagram page and realized that you had deleted all the other photos that you had posted prior. Was this
Yeah.
Did you feel like this was part of your healing process, that you don't want a reminder of this pregnancy on your social media? What was the thought process in deleting them?
Whew. Well, firstly, to share what had happened, it was because there was a lot of people that kept asking me about this, and that's why I deleted my Instagram from my phone. I think I deactivated it for about 3 weeks or something, and I decided that I'm gonna put it back. And when I did put it back, I noticed that there were some people who wanted to find out, how's everything going? I hope your baby's
Yeah.
here. I hope she's beautiful. Is it a girl or a boy? Because I hadn't said. And at first, I could respond to one person and be like, oh, this is what happened. And it would still be hurtful, but it would make me feel better that I told one person, and would tell one person every day. There was a new person that would ask me, and I would say. And after a while, you start to feel angry at people
Mm.
because you've shared this part of you. You've shared that you're pregnant. You've shared the whole journey of your pregnancy. And now there's a lot of people that think, oh, yes, Auntie was pregnant and she's back on Instagram. Let me ask,
Mm.
how's everything going? And they all have good intentions. I'm very sure of that. But I start to get angry because I'm going through something and now I still have to share this part of me or what's happened to me, and I'm still trying to process that.
Mm.
And that's when I thought, let me just tell everybody at one time so that it can stop for a little bit. And that's why I did that.
Did it
And to
stop for a
remove
little
my
bit?
mm,
Did it stop?
it did stop for a little bit. It did.
Okay. Okay.
It did.
Okay. So I think a big part of the loss of a pregnancy, especially in the black community, is how taboo it still is. How people don't
Yes.
even speak about their pregnancy, right? So that's why they'll always say, always announce your pregnancy after the third trimester. So that after what? The first trimester, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah,
that
after the
yeah,
trimester.
after, so that you know you have left the danger zone, and so that
Yes.
bangagloyi, etc. So all these
Yes.
things that people, all these bad spirits and bad energies that people bring upon you or wish upon you, won't necessarily affect your baby. Now, having known that you went through the 9 months safe and pregnant and announced it when you felt comfortable, because I mean
Yeah. I
you
was
announced
already
it, yeah,
six
you announced it
months.
a little further in.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, we had our congratulations, wishing you the best, and sort of wanting to go through the pregnancy journey with you. And that's a big part of social media, is that we have a sense of entitlement once you have posted something, right? We almost feel like you
Yes.
are now our business, and this is now our
Yeah.
pregnancy, for good or
Yes.
bad
Our
reasons.
pregnancy.
Yeah, for good
Yeah.
or bad reasons. Now that you have spoken about it and you're back and you're active on social media, there are women who go through the same thing, and there's a woman right now who's currently going through the same thing, and just almost feels like they cannot continue because they don't know how to. How
Yeah.
are you picking yourself up every single day to post up on social media? And that's what I love about it, is that you're posting up your flaws, you're posting up how hurt you are. And yes, it might be a
Yeah.
dance video, but you know that in this helps me to heal. That is to show you that
This
I'm
is
not
how
over
we know.
it.
Yes.
Yes, and that's the
Yes.
unrealistic part of social media, is how everybody tries to make it seem as if they go on with their lives and their lives are so perfect, and once they've lost a baby they can bounce up and leave again. And you
Yeah.
are almost showing every single crack that you have and every single scar that you have, and you're saying it's part of my healing. Is this something that you wanted to be intentional?
No, it wasn't intentional. I had a plan that I would just keep my social media from now on private, not private, but just about my dance,
Mm.
not anything about my relationship or the fact that I lost a baby. But as I came back, I realized how much I needed to express what I'm feeling, and also to show people that you can go through some very difficult situations, and it's going to take time, but it's really possible. And through that, I'm doing that through dance, because I'm a dancer. When I was off social media, I would just play music and just dance my heart out and like express myself. And this made me feel something again, to stop to feel numb and sad. I started to feel something, happiness, joy. I could feel my heartbeat again
Yeah.
through my dancing.
Yeah.
And this is helping me heal a lot, a lot. And
Yeah.
also women who are on my social media that DM me about their miscarriages, their child loss, their struggles with fertility. For me, it's helping me realize that I'm not the only one, and by speaking on it, I'm also helping somebody else, just like they helped me.
Tell
Yeah.
me something. I don't know how true this is. I've heard that once a woman loses her baby, they sometimes, like I said, we don't judge anybody who grieves and how they grieve. We all grieve in
Yes.
different ways. That they almost try instantly to get back and get pregnant. Is this something that you went through, where you almost immediately wanted to try again?
I really understand this. The reasoning that I give myself is that you had a baby, but the baby's in heaven now, and your body still doesn't comprehend the fact that you don't have your baby here, and your heart still doesn't comprehend the fact that your baby is not here. So not to replace the baby, it's just to fulfill this feeling of motherhood, to fulfill this feeling that I have a living baby with me. And I completely understand why women do that. I did feel like I wanted to do that, but at the same time, I'm too hurt and I'm too fearful right now. I'm too scared about doctors. I'm too scared about pregnancy. I'm too scared about reaching the end of my pregnancy and something happening again. I'm too scared of not having attention because of COVID-19. I'm too scared of a lot of things right now. But I know for other women, it gives them healing to have a living baby with them. Yeah.
Are you seeking help professionally? Is there anybody that you speak to on a daily? Because I think mental health is also just as important as healing physically.
It is very important. Well, whew, no. And it's a no because it's very difficult for me to find an English
Okay.
speaking uh, professional to help me. And just only a few weeks ago, I got my social security. So this is the thing that helps you get help, like from the hospital, or to pay stuff, medical stuff. It's like medical aid,
Okay.
except it's, yeah, yeah. So I just got this a couple of weeks ago. So now I want to actively find somebody that speaks English that can help me navigate the feelings that I have, because I feel like I do need help, especially in my dark moments. I need help.
Yeah. Do you also feel like there's a lot that was put on your partner when you are both going through the same thing? You both suffered the loss of a baby. So how is the healing process between the both of you, and how's that going? Are some days better than others? Are there days where you almost hate him, vice versa?
Um, I think my boyfriend had to deal with a lot more. He was the first person to see our baby, and in order to prepare me to see her, he was the person that had to organize the funeral and the the arrangements for
Sure.
the pastor that's gonna speak there, and the casket, what color it's gonna be, and all of these complicated things that needed to be sorted out. Instead of grieving, he had to organize this, and it was difficult for him, but I know that he knew I was there for him, because he would always come back and we'd cry together about what the day was about. We'd cry together about picking the right casket, putting a toy in her casket, maybe to keep her company. And there's days where didn't want to talk to anybody, including him, where I would just shut down. And he never gave up on me. And that was hard for him as well, because he also just lost a baby. But he's so selfless. And I try to remind myself that even someone that's selfless needs some attention as
Yeah.
well. They need some love
Even the
back.
strong ones need love.
Yes.
Even the
Yes.
strong one need to be checked up on.
Definitely, definitely. But he
Sure.
really does express himself with me, and this helps us a lot. And for me to understand how strong he is, his mentality, when he explains it to me, makes me have a positive outlook about how we can move forward in
Mm.
the situation.
Do you have sessions where you speak to each other? And I know you said you're not going the professional route as yet, but
Mm,
I feel like it's, and this is the worldwide thing, whether your man is French, whether your man is Zulu, whether your man is, Swahili, or whatever the case may be. It's just generally known that men do not express themselves in the way that we women do. And
mm,
the only time that a man does express himself and is that vulnerable is when he is so comfortable around a woman. Do you get to
yes,
the point where you sit your man down and you let him let out what is in his mind, what is in his heart, and what's really bothering him?
yes. And the reason why I fell in love with him to begin with is how comfortable he is around me to speak his mind. My partner, um, at the beginning of our relationship, had to tell me deep things about himself, and I vice versa. And for me, it's not that difficult because I just want to let it out. And for him, he wants to hold some things back in
Mm,
case maybe, I don't know, just fear of what the other person might think about him. And the fact that he opened up to me so early into the relationship, for me, was like, this is the person I want to be with. I want to be with someone who will talk to me about deep things, about their real feelings, about their past, truthfully
mm,
with me, and not
mm,
feel like, oh no, crying is for girls, or I shouldn't cry to my partner. And that's why I fell in love with him. He's a man's man, but he also knows how to speak to me about his true feelings. So yeah, we do have sessions where he'll just tell me everything, every
mm.
single thing,
Oh,
everything.
you're incredibly blessed in that side. I think you need this, especially the fact that you're in a foreign country. You don't have your friends there, you don't have your family there. You definitely do need
Yeah.
someone who, can level with you in terms of your loss, and also can listen to you. And I think that's a very important thing, is that we don't get a lot of partners who are able to listen to us and who are able to hear us and understand our feelings. So I think you're incredibly
Mm,
lucky in that sense. And if there's anybody who's going through something, like, not if, there is someone who's going through something
yeah.
that you are going through right now, the very same thing, and there are others who have gone through multiple, pregnancy losses. What would you love to say to them who are currently listening right now and are probably in tears and feel like they cannot go on because they almost feel like, in inverted commas, they're not woman enough to carry a pregnancy full term, for whatever that means? And I feel like those are those little tags that we grew up, they used to put on our mothers who lost the babies. And unfortunately, we grow up with them also. And there are still some women who kind of make women feel like they're not women enough to be able to
Yeah.
carry a full term pregnancy. So, what would you like to say to those women who unfortunately unable or don't feel like they can go on? Take your time, it's okay.
First, I'd like them to know that it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
This is something that I'm still trying to accept into my life, that it's not my fault. There's nothing I could have done.
And that's what I want to tell you as well, is that there was nothing that you could have done at all.
There's nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing that could have been done. And I want to say that, oh, cry. If you need to cry, cry.
Mm.
Don't be this person that has to be strong in a situation. You will be strong after you cry, because after you've let it out, you're going to feel much better. You're going to start to accept your situation. Accept your situation is also really important, because being in denial is not going to help. You have to accept that your baby is in heaven, and one day you will see your baby again. But for now, you have to go all out. You have to fight. You have to fight. You have to
Yeah.
fight to be happy again. You have to fight to experience life in a positive light. And and I want to say to the guys that have been through child loss with their partners, girlfriends, any sort of situation like this, is that you are allowed to feel loss. Just because you didn't carry the baby in your stomach does not mean that you have to feel any less. It's painful for the guys as
Yeah.
well. They need to acknowledge those feelings, that you lost a baby and you had planned a future for that baby. And it's okay to feel sad and disappointed and angry and all of these feelings, you know? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you for trusting me with your healing. Thank you so much for trusting me with your story. I think this is a very big step to healing, and I mean, you've already taken it. But thank you for trying to heal other women who will be listening to this podcast. And through this podcast, I wish you nothing but healing. I wish you, nothing but the best in life and also in your future pregnancies, when and if you are ready to carry babies. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, and all the best. And I know that it's not the nicest thing to be going through something this major and being away from your family and being in a foreign country, but
Yeah.
you are where God wants you to be, and you wouldn't be there
Yes.
if God didn't want you and didn't place you there purposefully. That's my dog
Yes.
basically saying, let's wrap up this interview. Thank you so much. You are tuned in
Thank you.
to the AirPod with Tepi. This was the very first episode of Losing a Baby During COVID-19. Andy, all the best. Thank you, baby.
Thank you.